Industrialization, pollution, commercialization, commodification. Or when we narrow it down, it leads back to one: carbon emission. The islands of the Philippines host one of the greatest concentrations of wildlife species in the world, at least 20,000 of which cannot be found anywhere else. But in the past 500 years, human activity has led to 500 species of land animals going extinct, a rate that has caused scientists to warn of a sixth mass extinction. And at such great heights, we now found ourselves in quandaries of biodiversity loss. Does the pound of population get better without human interference? Because if you think about it, the speed at which climate change is occurring at the moment, there is only one variable that wasn't there before, and that's the number of human beings that are on this planet. Thus maybe, we should be worried that we humans are invasive predators, pushing the biodiversity to the edge of its collapse.
Fauna is a collective term for all animal life in a particular region. It is important because it helps us understand the ecology of our planet. It provides us vital resources such as food, materials, and medicines, and it plays an important role in regulating the climate. Fauna can also help us understand the past and predict the future of our environment. It helps us plan the future, and it provides vital information that can be used to make decisions about managing resources and conserving habitats. Fauna also provides us important recreational opportunities, allowing us to enjoy and appreciate nature. Ultimately, our planet's fauna is vital for our survival and well-being, and it must be protected and conserved.
To begin with, biogeochemical cycle is a natural channel used to transport vital components of living matter. Within the cycle, there are 5 main processes that makes up the channel, namely carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, oxygen cycle, phosphorus cycle, and the water cycle. For fauna, carbon cycle is a necessity for sustainability. By mediating carbon exchange between ecosystems in the atmosphere and occasionally converting ecosystem carbon sources into sinks or vice versa, we demonstrate that animals play a significant role as well. All lives involve the ingestion and expulsion of carbon, whether it be for the purpose of producing food or as a part of respiration. Carbon is always moving from one location to another that could be detrimental if the cycle is insufficient.
So how does carbon cycle affect fauna in return? So carbon cycle affects the fauna in return by which the fauna is already overpopulated, which then releases more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. The native plants, which affects the carbon cycle itself. And throughout the photosynthesis, plants take in carbon from their surroundings and give it back through the use of respiration. And animals get their carbons from eating plants, and they give it off when they breathe. And when dead plants and animals are broken down by microorganisms, such as fungi and bacteria, carbon is released back into the environment, which will result to the circulation of the carbon cycle itself.
Le Chatelier's principle is used to anticipate the probable outcomes of various changes from an equilibrium state. Henri Louis Le Chatelier, a French chemist and inspiration for the theory, stated that the balance regulates the reactions to tolerate changes affecting the circumstances. In the case of animal life, the fluctuation of weather conditions threatens its quality. To visualize, chickens are sensitive to heat stress, and the increase in temperature results in their panting. The release of carbon dioxide decreases the carbonate concentration, creating a weaker production. The established equilibrium determines the factors vital to the shift. Thus, the treatments are made to counteract, resulting in a lesser impact and healthier produce.
An invasive species is a plant, animal, or organism that is not native to a particular area and whose introduction causes or is likely to cause economic or environmental harm, and also harm to human health. These species can outcompete native species for resources and can disrupt ecosystems. In Philippines, invasive species can be found in Luzon, specifically Cagayan and Isabela. province. Kalula pulcra gray is a frog that has been observed in our country and shows that it disrupts many native species and fauna's reproduction along the islands of Luzon. There are also introduced species such as wild boar, black rat, and civet cat that cause damage to crops, compete and hunt with native animals, as well as spread disease.
In recent figures, humans have been increasing at an alarming rate, threatening the natural order of the carbon cycle. Cattle, one of the most common forms of livestock, have the potential to play a significant role in our efforts to slow and reverse global warming because they are a controllable source of methane and they recycle carbon particles that plants and soil need. Additionally, one solid solution is increasing the diversity of animals in the environment. The presence of different mammals and their interaction increases the amount of carbon stored in soils and trees. Because carbon is taken from the atmosphere when it is stored, it helps slow down climate change.
One method of increasing the diversity of animals in the environment is epigenetics. Evelyn Ivica Avimu in Yingyo's research defined epigenetics as another layer of information by describing the processes causing phenotypic changes as opposed to DNA sequence changes. In their study, epigenetic biomarkers may be utilized to control livestock reproduction, growth, and productivity by predicting animals' reactions to various environmental stresses and implementing countermeasures. Hence, epigenetic variables may contribute to animals' disease resilience, tolerance, and adaptation to harsh environments, all of which may aid in lowering animal mortality and ultimately increasing the quantity and diversity of animals.
In conclusion, not only do humans experience the effects of climate catastrophe on our world, the species and habitats of the Earth will likewise see significant, occasionally disastrous alteration. Temperature rises can cause massive extinction waves and the collapse of delicate ecosystems. Climate change has made it harder for people and wild animals to survive. We must drastically reduce global carbon emissions to prevent the worst consequences of climate change. In addition to providing a solution, important refugees and migratory routes for wildlife, riparian and shoreline buffers can shield people and infrastructure from flooding. Encourage locals to participate in citizen science projects to monitor the impacts of climate change, including school groups. Make people aware that we must act now and change to find ways to bring back our environment to its former beauty and health.